Ladies and gentlemen, let's talk about where India is headed next. And Meghna, clearly India is in a new era when it comes to space exploration. With milestones like Chandrayaan and Gaganyaan, we've shown the world what's possible. But the question is, can India rise to the challenge and become a global leader in space innovation, competing with the likes of SpaceX?
Well, absolutely. In fact, for our next session, our next speaker has been at the heart of this very mission. As chairperson of the IIN Space, Pawan Goenka is leading the charge to propel India into the forefront of space technology. Today, he'll be sharing his thoughts on how India can make its mark on the global space stage.
Ladies and gentlemen, please join us in welcoming Pawan Goenka, who will be in conversation with Senior Executive Editor, Input Times Now and Mirror Now, Madhav Das Gopalakrishnan. Madhav, can we have you? Okay, there you are.
We'll hand it over to you, Madhav, now.
Thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen, and thank you so much, Mr. Pawan Goenka, for joining us today. As we all know, India is on the cusp of going from space as something that was entirely an area managed by the government to now an area where more private players are going to be engaged. In space is going to be a key factor in driving that. And the big question on everyone's minds, as we've seen the stupendous success of SpaceX that has, fired off everyone's imagination globally, what really do we need to do for us to be able to enable an environment where we perhaps create an Indian SpaceX in the future? We have the talent, we have the ecosystem, we have a very passionate Indian audience or citizens who are very, very interested in this area. But what do we need to do to actually deliver another Indian SpaceX?
Thank you, Madhav, and thank you for having me here today. I normally talk about space to the audience that is connected to space. Today, perhaps I have an audience that may not be very familiar with what's happening in the space sector. So I won't directly address the question that when India may have its own SpaceX, because that gets asked often. I'll let the audience judge towards the end of this program on where we are headed and whether we will have a SpaceX. So I think just to give you a little bit of a background, India opened up the space sector only in 2020, in the middle of COVID, to allow the private sector to come in and play a major role in space. As you said, that till that time it was primarily ISRO that was involved in the space sector, and ISRO has made us proud. If you look at that video right there, this is what we all feel good about and clap when we land on the moon. But the second thing that's happening now is how the private sector is coming in. In the last three and a half years, a lot has happened in terms of how private sector is playing in the space. For example, we had only one startup in the space sector about 3-4 years ago. Now we have 250. We have a lot of investment coming in the sector. We have a lot of technical work happening in the sector. But I'll sort of come back and talk about what we have achieved and let you come in and ask me the next question. But by the end of the half an hour, we should probably get an answer to when India might have its own space, so whether India should even worry about having a SpaceX.
Okay, but that's very interesting because, there are many lessons to be learned from, the big companies, whether it's SpaceX, whether it's Blue Origin, etc. What are the lessons that India can learn to accelerate growth in this area?
So I think that's a very, very good question. See, space is not a business of instant gratification. It requires a lot of perseverance, requires a lot of technology work, requires a lot of investment. So if you look at SpaceX, for example, we all know about the success of a SpaceX, but we don't know what it took for SpaceX to get here. They started in about 2002. They were almost bankrupt before they had the successful launch of Falcon in about 2008 or 9. $100 million was brought in by Elon Musk as his personal money. And up till now, about $8 billion has been invested in SpaceX by various investors. I think it's turning profitable just about now, after 20 years, though the valuation of SpaceX is $210 billion. So one thing that is required is heavy investment coming from personal, private, or the government. In fact, government of USA through NASA has given at least $5 to $6 billion worth of business to SpaceX. So that's one of the things that we will have to do, that how does the government provide the financial support to the private sector, and how does government provide business or demand to the private sector. The second thing that SpaceX has done extremely well, that very few companies have managed to do, is advanced technology way beyond what was the state of the art in 2002. The Raptor engine that they have launched with the Starship is absolutely world-class. No one has it. The Falcon that they did the first time reusable rocket, nobody had done that in the world up until now. Nobody. They're the first company to do that, private or government. So it also success is coming from very cutting-edge technology development that SpaceX has done. Right? And third one is, of course, to have kind of an appetite that Mr. Elon Musk has for taking risk, setting very big, bold goals that many of us will think the man is crazy, right? But he sets the goal and achieves the goal by his belief in himself and his team, and his ability to muster support for himself in all
right.
box.
One interesting aspect, though, that that in space and the entire environment has, is that earlier space was directly under the central government. Even the structure of it is that it comes directly under the Prime Minister's office, and that's been the case for many decades. But now, do you see that the state governments too can have a role in actually fostering this ecosystem and ensuring that there is more private investment? What are the steps that have been taken for state governments to get more involved?
So see, state government has a role in two ways. One, government today is the biggest user of the outcome of space, whether it happens in terms of satellites and communication devices or navigation devices, which is done mostly by the security agencies, including defense. And second, in terms of using the data from space to translate into information that gets used in our daily life, whether it's agriculture, communication, navigation, disaster monitoring, marine, all of these, right? States are very big user of these things. So what the states need to do is perhaps understand a little more of how space can help running of the various programs that they have and make them more efficient and more effective. Right? The second thing that the states can do is to attract space companies to come in and set up manufacturing in their state, just like they do for many other investments. So right now, at least two states, Gujarat and Tamil Nadu, have come forward setting up a manufacturing cluster, investing significant amount of money, providing land for it, coming out with policies to support manufacturing in their state. And many other states are now looking at it with the private sector growing. So to attract that private sector, to set up the manufacturing. And third is to create an ecosystem for startups through incubation centers that, again, many states are doing. Karnataka, of course, is the heart of space industry, with the headquarters of ISRO being in Karnataka, and also many of the startups are set up in and around Karnataka. So that, again, Karnataka is quite active in supporting space.
Right. No, space has so many applications, cutting across sectors, whether we're talking about weather, we're talking about agriculture, remote sensing can be applied in virtually every sector, apart from, of course, communication, so on and so forth. As we move towards privatization, and of course, there's no denying that, making things commercially viable is also very, very important. But how do we ensure that there is a balance between the need to privatize, the need for commercial applications on the one hand, when we come to our technology, that it is also used for the larger developmental goals, which may not be as, say, commercially attractive for the private players to invest in and to be engaged in?
So let me put it in perspective, Madhav. The global space economy today is about $440 billion. Many people don't know that. India is only about $8 billion. That is just about 2% of global economy. But India, in terms of technology, is shoulder to shoulder with most advanced countries in terms of what we can do. Again, you can see all these videos in front of you. We are not behind anyone. Where we need to do more is the commercial application of space. The type of application where the government comes in and does things for the social requirement or for defense requirement, security requirements, is being done reasonably well We can do more, but we are doing reasonably well. Where we're not doing enough is the commercial application of space. How do the people sitting here in this room see space as something that can help them do what they're doing better, right? And not just look at the Chandrayaan landing on the moon. That's exciting. That's a lot of value. It brings us a lot of pride, brings a lot of technology. But what can happen to the data that comes down to the satellites? What can happen to the communication that we can do through satellite, and how can you use it in your business?